Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kite Man, Hell Yes, Season 1, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, the Villigan's Sexiest Man Alive award is coming up, and I had to pause for a second because I was like, wait, wasn't that the award show in season 3 of Harley Quinn? But it's like, no, I went back and looked it up. It's the Villies. They might be connected, but I would assume it's kind of like the Oscars versus the Emmys. It's like they're different award shows, so I don't think they're connected. I mean, not unless the Villies are somehow a Villigan's, award show, but I assume not. Either way, when it's all said and done, Kite Man, or rather Beast Mode, is in the running, and so is Lex. This will be he's won 7 years in a row, and what was the underdog in all of this ends up being Bane, but no one really finds him attractive. What was it? The good, the bad, and the ugly, and he's the ugly. And I love that Malice ends up helping, trying to make him look sexy, just for the purposes of trying to get back at Kite Man for like being such a douche. She was like, you know what? He wants to win that award. I'll make Bane so sexy he wins the award. I love her way of making him win. It's just putting a suit on him. It's not even like, we don't even get to see him, like Bane's just wearing, it seems like he's just wearing his natural suit. I mean, I'm sure I don't know if the mask connects to the rest of his suit or not. It's probably separate, but he's still got this mask on, but he's wearing a suit on top of it. I think he still has, like, you can see like the gloves from his suit, so he might just be wearing it on top of his suit. That's all she added to him, and he's trying to feel all sexy, but knowing that Noonan's pays him any attention until Malice messes around and finds the anti-life equation suitcase and hands it to him, because she never bothered checking what was actually in it, which, you would think, considering like this is all connected to Darkseid and stuff, that she would know and register what that is. But Malice is self-centered in regards of she only cares about herself, and it's like her like focus of, oh, I'm only caring about Bane because he's my tool of getting back at Kite Man. There's also an element of also like, if Bane like is not sexy, having put all this time and effort in him, it actually reflects badly upon me. Like, I can't make anyone sexy. But it turns out it does the job. Like, he rocks this suitcase and everyone's like, oh wow, Bane. Oh, looks like a businessman, successful businessman, and everyone's kind of fawning over him. Beast Mode continues to be the douchebag that he is, just running amok, causing a whole bunch of havoc at Noonan's. And Glider is intent on getting, Kite Man back. So she turns to the one person she thinks, like, right, maybe you'll be able to reach the Chuck that's buried underneath all that. And who does she turn to? His dad, who couldn't be bothered because he's like, why would I do that? I'm sure, but it would involve spending time with my son. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. She's like, I will make sure he does not call, text, or email you for a year. And he's like, all right, I'll give it a soft maybe that I'll be involved. And I love of course, he's like, oh my God, Chuck, you're the son I've always wanted, Beast Mode. And he's like, oh, call me Beast Pops now and stuff. So that plan completely backfired. Makes a lot of sense. Chuck, as this douchebag that he is everything that his father likes, because his father's like that too. So, of course, he would never like the sensitive person he is. Once again, I think it's so interesting his mom hasn't come up in these conversations, because once again, I think the only time we met his mom was season 2, like when him and Ivy were engaged. And I think I remember her being a dick. Definitely his father, because his mom doesn't come up in these conversations of like, oh, or maybe I misremember. Maybe his mom died or something. Like, the fact is, like, we're only focused on his dad. But I guess maybe that's to lean into the whole, well, his mom's not really in the picture for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe his parents are divorced. At least in Glider's case, well, her dad's dead. And her mom wants nothing to do with her, but she also sent her back to the past last episode, so we don't know where the hell that's going to turn into. So, that plan to try and get Chuck's dad, to bring out the real Chuck backfired, but Chuck is still buried underneath, and Glider needs to go to Helen to reverse it, but Helen's not going to want to reverse it in general. I also love that Gus is working at Villigan's. I'm like, when did that happen? Well, I mean, he is a teacher after all. So teachers don't get paid a lot, so of course he's going to need a side gig. But he's working at Villigan's. I mean, the last person we saw working there was Bane, and I guess that didn't work out after the whole, when did episode 3 was Villigan, so I'm like, maybe after, I mean, Bane hasn't been back there since then, so. But even then, I don't think he ever officially worked there anyway. He just like put on like a, just pretended like he worked there, so. So I love that we brought in Clayface to disguise himself as Helen. The moment she was like, "Don't talk," I was like, "Of course it's got to be Clayface, because you don't want him like running his mouth with his like monologues and stuff like that." So, but I'm curious, is that really the reason why it didn't work? The device of hers, that controller, the reason why it didn't work is because he was staring at the sun during the eclipse for like 30 minutes straight, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like your eyeballs will basically look as bald and as hairless as Sir Patrick Stewart's ass." And it's like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Oh yes, his ass is bald." But obviously that's not what she was asking about. But it's like, I can only assume that probably legitimately is the reason why it didn't work. It's like, it was kind of a foolproof plan. It worked, but it's in typical fashion, Clayface had to fuck it up. I think the only time throughout the entirety of like Harley Quinn, the only time he never fucked it up was when he was Stephanie during like, was that season 2? Yeah, when he was Stephanie in season 2. I think that's the only time Clayface's like disguise and stuff like that never got fucked up. Like he lost himself in that character. I don't think he's ever been able to recapture that, at least not to my recollection. So I always think it's funny of like he fucks up literally everything else except for that one job. But he fucked it up in regards of he got too into character and got too consumed by it. So we also ultimately find out what it is that Helen wanted, like why she needed the beast mode situation, because she needed a douchebag hero to become, well, villain to become like the sexiest villain, so that they can like basically distract Lex, because he's won it 7 years in a row, and this was kind of like, because she knows that Lex has something she's looking for. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is where we're tying it all together. She's looking for the anti-life equation as well. So, I mean, we know Darkseid was looking for it, but after like episode 2, he kind of like bounced after not finding it here on Earth, or just kind of like he got distracted by the malice of it all, so he didn't bother like checking around anymore. We don't know where he stands in the grand scheme of things, but because I had wondered about that, I was like, oh, I wonder, did they keep Lex out of this for any particular reason? Like I said, like at the last episode, I was like, well, we haven't seen Lex pop up since like episode 2, so I was like, is it because of Lance Reddick's passing? But it seems like no, they got probably a lot of this done ahead of time, sadly, you know before sad passing. So I'm assuming like he probably is going to be in the rest of the season 2. So if there is a season 2, probably didn't work. I don't know if they've even like this guy greenlit for a second season. Probably won't know until I really look into it, and I usually save that looking into stuff until like the season finale. That's kind of beside the point, but my point was I wasn't sure if we were going to get more Lex, and ultimately we do, because it all circles back and connects to the anti-life equation. So I love Bane showing up at the Villigans, and he's just like doing his little song, which at first when he did the B, I was like, all right, this is going to be probably cringy, but it's going to be still dope, but also cringy. And then it was just like, nah, it sucks, but everyone else is cheering for it, being like, oh my God, that's the best. It's crazy, because it's like your sexy outweighs how cringe and terrible that was. But I love that everyone was cheering for it. But turns out, I was like, oh, is Bane going to be the upset at the the Villigans? And it's like, well, no, because it's stacked against, because Helen was like, no, I'm making it clear you're going to win, Chuck, you idiot. Like, I need you to win and distract Lex while I use my robotic hummingbirds to try and track down this thing, the anti-life equation. So, and Chuck wins, and he's a douchebag, and he begins ripping into Lex, and I love everyone's laughing at him. I have a little ocean mess like, whoa, Lex, don't do anything, or you just look more like an asshole. But then at one point, leaning in, was like, oh, wow, that was actually funny, wasn't it? It's just like everyone's laughing at Lex. So, but it becomes a thing of, okay, so Lex wants the anti-life equation, so does Helen, but Glider ends up getting her hands on it, and she's initially losing control of her powers. And I love that Lex kind of tried to pull a little bit of like a I literally was about to say Scarlet, but I meant to say like Black Widow. But in Age of Ultron, it's like, oh, it's getting pretty. The sun setting is getting pretty late, buddy. Type of situation with Hulk. I thought it seemed like he was kind of doing that because he tried to do an ASMR thing and try to calm her down, but it turns out she kind of ends up absorbing whatever the anti-life equation is, and it gives her better control of her power, and she proceeds to stab, melt, and slice and dice everyone, gets Helen to activate the device, turns beast mode into Kite Man, and she bounces with him. Which I'm like, okay, they're about to go off and bang, but like, there's kind of technically two of her right now, so I'm like, are you about to technically is Kite Man about to have a threesome? Hell yeah. It seemed like it, but I don't know what that means. And I mean, obviously, we don't know what that means in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, of her. Now, I mean, is that control of her power going to be permanent or not? Probably not, because probably just as Kite Man's getting fixed and she's got better control of her powers, it's probably going to change some kind of balance, and she's going to, I don't know, like that's probably going to turn messed up. I mean, her powers have already been very like, oh, kill everything in sight. So adding in the anti-life equation, I don't know what that's going to do to her. Like, did she absorb all of it? Did she absorb a fraction of it? I brought up Darkseid not being around, but it being inside of a person now rather than being in the suitcase might draw him in and might bring him back in the fold of things. But like I said, it could also just be like she's only like sapped some of it. Maybe the rest of the equation is still perfectly fine inside the suitcase. Who knows? Lex went off like a loser, like lost this. So did Helen. So it's going to be interesting to see, because I could see both of them gunning for them now, because I tried to rip it out of Glider. So I also was not expecting Kite Man's circumstances to be fixed the next episode. I thought we might be dealing with a little bit of a beast mode arc. No, he that's been rectified, and he's back to being the good old Kite Man, which I'm happy for him and Glider, because I'm like, yeah, man, it kind of sucked having Chuck be beast mode, which obviously him turning back into Kite Man was the most devastating thing for his father, which I'm like, okay, who cares? So I also love, like, Lisa already had the perspective of, I don't know why Chuck is going so above and beyond trying to get your love, which is ironic considering all that she did try to get her mother's love last episode. She already felt that way about Chuck's dad, but I think she probably feels it even more so now that everything went down with her mom. But it is always that thing of, you recognize the issues in others before you're able to recognize them in yourself. So I don't know if she was like clearly aware of that, or whether it's just kind of a happenstance thing of like, no, like she doesn't view her circumstances and Chuck's circumstances as the same, even though they are. Once again, that mother situation being sent back to the past, who knows what that's going to mean in the long run. Also, are you going to ever tell your brother about that? Stuff like that I'm curious about. I feel like that's a thread that will tie back into some of this. I don't know. We've only got 3 episodes left, so I'm curious to see where these last 3 episodes end up taking us. Oh my god, I'm also forgetting another side of the episode, and that is Mo and Queen of Fables were beefing a little bit, because she's like, right, we're kind of conjoined twins that kind of like do stuff every once in a while, but it's like, we're not dating. So they brought different dates to the Villigans. She brought Toyman, which I was like, oh, that's an interesting coupling. And he brought the Insect Queen, or Queen of Insects. And so it did seem like Queen of Fables was a little bit jealous. I was like, that seemed like there was a little jealousy kind of popping up there. But it is a thing of, well, we're sharing bodies, and it's like, well, you doing stuff with that insect. It's like, well, what about me and my situation? So she rips off her own head, puts it on the table, and then both queens are talking shit about each other. But it's like the insect queen's like, oh, I'm going to take Mo back, and I'm basically going to, like, save him for later, and then I'm going to eat him. And it's like, oh, let me take you back to suck your brains out. And Mo's like, hell yeah. And she's like, the Queen of Fables is like, she meant that literally. So Toyman like takes her to try and save Mo's life, which I'm like, I think it shows that the Queen of Fables does care about him, but she immediately gets sidetracked when she finds out her body's there trapped in amber. So she's like, oh, well, fuck that. She should have eaten my body before she got the chance. So it could always be the thing of she puts her head on her body and saves Mo, but it's probably also a possibility that she just like gets her own body and bounces. We never actually got a conclusion, so we have no idea. I mean, I could easily see the next episode picking up immediately where this episode left off, but there's probably a good chance that it's going to be like the next day or something, I assume. But because it's like nighttime in the episode. So I'm so curious to see what they do. Because especially because we left that, like, that Joe and Toyman and Queen of Fable situation where it was, that I'm like, are you really just going to skip over that? Maybe we'll just find out the details from Queen of Fables later. That she's like, yeah, I got my body back. And we find out that Mo has been, like, encased in amber and left there. Like, that might just be the conclusion we get to that story, and she might eventually go back for him when she kind of realizes she actually misses him and liked him. I brought that up previously of, like, I was wondering if she was going to, like, just bounce from body to body forever, or would she eventually get, like, a version of her body back. And it's like, no, she got her actual body back. So what that means, like, maybe she's going to go rogue a little bit in the sense of she's not going to be kicking around Noonan's anymore, and she feels like, yeah, I'm top dog, I'm powerful again. But like I said, maybe she'll sacrifice that for the sake of Mo, because she actually does care about him and miss him. We'll have to wait to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this to find out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.